Gentlemen, if you've ever been with a woman and suddenly she says something out of left field, something that feels like it's designed to push your buttons, you're not imagining it. She's testing you. And most men fail these tests without even realizing the game is on. These aren't conscious evil plots. This is female psychology running on autopilot. Thousands of years of evolution wired her to probe for weakness, to separate the strong from the pretend strong. Because deep down, she doesn't want a man who crumbles under pressure. She wants the one who stays solid when everything else shakes. So when she throws a little chaos your way, maybe she teases you harshly, cancels plans last minute, brings up an ex, or asks a loaded question like, "Do you think she's prettier than me?" That's not the time to explain yourself, get defensive, or start over-investing.
Let me tell you something that's going to completely change how you see women's behavior. When she tests you, she's not doing it because she's cruel, manipulative, or playing games for entertainment. She's doing it because millions of years of evolution programmed her to do exactly this. And understanding this one fact will transform every interaction you have with women. Here's what's really happening. Deep in her brain, beneath all the conscious thoughts about coffee dates and text messages and what to wear tonight, there's an ancient screening system running constantly. It's evaluating you, measuring you, testing whether you're actually the man you present yourself to be. This isn't a choice she makes. It's not something she can turn off even if she wanted to. It's hardwired into her biology the same way hunger and thirst are hardwired into yours. Think about what was at stake for women throughout human history. A woman who chose the wrong mate didn't just end up disappointed or heartbroken. She ended up potentially dead. Her children ended up potentially dead. When you're living in a world of predators, rival tribes, scarce resources, and constant danger, your choice of partner is literally a life or death decision. Choose a weak man, a cowardly man, a man who crumbles under pressure, and you've just sentenced yourself and your offspring to suffer the consequences. So nature, being the brutal optimizer it is, gave women a solution. It installed a sophisticated testing mechanism that activates automatically whenever they encounter a potential mate. These tests aren't conscious strategies that women sit around planning. Most women have no idea they're even doing it. It happens below the level of awareness, driven by instincts that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. What exactly is she testing for? She's testing whether your strength is real or performed. See, any man can act confident when everything's going well. Any man can seem strong when there's no pressure, no challenge, no resistance. But what happens when she pushes back? What happens when she creates friction, introduces chaos, or withdraws her warmth? Do you remain solid, or do you immediately start scrambling for her approval? She's testing your emotional stability. Can you stay centered when she's emotional? Can you maintain your composure when she's upset, when she's angry, when she's distant? Or do her emotions immediately control yours? Do you need her to be happy for you to feel okay? Because if you do, you've just revealed that you're not the oak tree she can lean on. You're just another leaf being blown around by the wind. She's testing your congruence. Do you actually believe the things you say, or are you just telling her what you think she wants to hear? When you say you're confident, do you actually feel confident, or does the first sign of her disapproval send you into panic mode? When you say you have boundaries, do you actually enforce them, or do they disappear the moment enforcing them might upset her? She's testing whether you're a leader or a follower. Can you make decisions and stick to them? Can you choose a direction and move forward even when she's throwing obstacles in your path? Or are you constantly looking to her for permission, for validation, for approval before you take action? And here's the critical part that most men completely miss. These tests intensify at the beginning of a relationship and during any transition phase. When you first meet her, the testing is constant and relentless because she hasn't figured you out yet. She doesn't know if you're real or fake, strong or weak, solid or unstable. Every interaction is a data point. Every situation is an opportunity for her to learn whether you're actually the high-value man you're presenting yourself to be. The tests never completely stop, but they do decrease in frequency and intensity once you've consistently demonstrated your strength. Once she knows in her bones that you're solid, that you can't be shaken,
that your frame is unbreakable. The testing becomes occasional maintenance rather than constant interrogation. But you have to pass those early tests consistently. You have to show her again and again that pressure doesn't break you, that her emotions don't control you, that you remain you regardless of what she throws at you. Here's what you need to understand about her tests. The content of the test doesn't matter. The specific words she says, the particular situation she creates, the exact scenario she presents to you is completely irrelevant. What matters, what she's actually evaluating, what determines whether you pass or fail, is your reaction. Your emotional response to her test reveals more about your character than anything you could ever say about yourself. Think about it this way. Anyone can claim to be confident. Anyone can say they're emotionally strong, that they're a leader, that they don't need validation from others. Words are cheap. Words cost nothing. A weak man can say the exact same words as a strong man. But reactions? Reactions can't lie. Your immediate instinctive response to pressure reveals who you actually are beneath the image you're trying to project. When she cancels plans at the last minute, the test isn't about whether you're disappointed. Of course you're disappointed. The test is whether that disappointment turns you into someone who's needy, butthurt, passive-aggressive, or desperate for an explanation. Do you send 3 paragraphs asking what happened and whether she's still interested? Do you get angry and try to make her feel guilty? Do you immediately offer to reschedule at her convenience, communicating that your time has no value? Or do you simply say something like, "No problem, another time," and go live your life? When she says something that seems designed to get a reaction out of you, maybe she mentions another guy, maybe she's short with you for no apparent reason, maybe she makes a critical comment about something you care about, your response in that moment tells her everything she needs to know. Do you get defensive? Do you try to explain yourself? Do you seek reassurance? Do you get angry and lash out? Or do you remain completely unfazed, maybe even amused, because you're so secure in yourself that her little provocations can't penetrate your frame? The weak man's reaction is always the same. He reacts emotionally. He gets triggered. He feels the need to defend himself, to explain himself, to justify himself, to seek her approval or change her mind. His emotional state becomes dependent on hers. When she's upset, he gets upset. When she pulls away, he chases. When she challenges him, he crumbles or gets aggressive. He's reactive instead of responsive. He's being controlled by external circumstances instead of remaining grounded in his own center. The strong man's reaction is fundamentally different. He remains calm. He stays centered. He doesn't allow her behavior to dictate his emotional state. When she creates drama, he doesn't get sucked into it. When she pulls away, he doesn't chase her down demanding explanations. When she tests him, he recognizes it for what it is and responds with a kind of relaxed, amused confidence that communicates something powerful without saying it directly. What he's communicating is this: I see what you're doing. I understand the game. And I'm completely unfazed by it because I'm so solid in who I am that your tests can't shake me. I don't need your approval. I don't need you to be happy with me every moment. I don't need to convince you of anything. I am who I am, and if that works for you, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. This is what's meant by holding your frame. Your frame is your reality, your perspective, your emotional center. When you have a strong frame, external circumstances don't dictate your internal state. Her mood doesn't control your mood. Her tests don't trigger your insecurities. Her withdrawal doesn't send you into panic mode. You remain consistent, stable, and grounded, regardless of what she throws at you. And here's the paradox that confuses most men. The less you react to her tests, the more attracted she becomes. The more you can remain calm and unfazed when she's trying to get a reaction, the more she respects you. Because every time you pass a test by not reacting emotionally, you're proving to her subconscious mind that you're actually strong, not just pretending to be strong. The man who gets angry when tested reveals he's insecure. The man who gets defensive when challenged reveals he's uncertain of himself. The man who seeks validation when she pulls away reveals he's needy. The man who explains himself excessively reveals he needs her approval. But the man who remains calm, slightly amused, and completely centered when she tests him, reveals something she finds incredibly attractive. He reveals that he's so confident in his own value that nothing she does can shake him. Your reaction is the answer to her question. When she tests you, she's asking whether you're real or fake, strong or weak, solid or unstable. Your reaction gives her the answer. React with neediness, anger, defensiveness, or desperation, and you've told her you're weak. React with calm, centered, amused confidence, and you've told her you're exactly the kind of man she's been looking for. Pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because this is where most men permanently destroy their chances with a woman without even realizing it. The tests that happen in the first few weeks and months of knowing her are not just random challenges she's throwing at you. They are the foundation-setting moments that will determine the entire trajectory of your relationship. How you handle these early tests creates a pattern, establishes a precedent, and sets the frame for everything that comes after. Here's why this matters so much. In those first interactions, first dates, first few weeks of knowing each other, she hasn't decided yet what category you belong in. Are you a high-value man worth investing in? Are you someone she respects and desires? Or are you just another guy she can control and manipulate? Your behavior during this crucial window answers that question for her, and once she's categorized you, it's incredibly difficult to change her perception. Think of it like this. Every time she tests you early on and you fail by being reactive, needy, or seeking her approval, you're teaching her something. You're teaching her that she has power over you. You're teaching her that her moods control your emotional state. You're teaching her that she can get what she wants from you by withdrawing affection or creating drama. You're literally training her to disrespect you. And once that pattern is established, it becomes the operating system of your entire relationship. When you fail early tests, you set yourself up as the pursuer while she becomes the prize. You become the one who's constantly seeking her validation, her approval, her affection. You become the one who's always trying to please her, always worried about upsetting her, always walking on eggshells around her emotions. And she becomes the one with all the power, the one who knows that if she pulls away, you'll come running, the one who understands that you need her more than she needs you. This dynamic, once established, is almost impossible to reverse. You can't suddenly start having boundaries and self-respect 6 months into a relationship when you've spent the first 6 months demonstrating that you have neither. She won't believe it. She'll see it as you playing games or being manipulative, because you've already shown her who you are, and people don't fundamentally change overnight. The frame you set early becomes the frame you're stuck with. But here's the powerful flip side. When you pass those early tests consistently, when you remain calm and centered and unfazed by her provocations, when you demonstrate that you have boundaries and you're willing to enforce them, when you show her that your emotional state doesn't depend on her approval, you set an entirely different dynamic. You establish yourself as a high-value man. You create a relationship where she's working to maintain your interest rather than you working to maintain hers. Pass the early tests, and she learns that drama doesn't work on you. She learns that withdrawing affection doesn't make you chase. She learns that testing your boundaries results in consequences, not negotiations. She learns that you're a man with options who doesn't tolerate disrespectful behavior. And most importantly, she learns to respect you, which is the foundation of genuine attraction. This is why so many men wonder why women seem so difficult and demanding with them, when those same women are sweet and cooperative with other guys. It's not that women are different with different men. It's that different men set different frames. The man who fails early tests creates a woman who constantly tests, constantly pushes boundaries, constantly creates drama, because she's learned that this behavior works. The man who passes early tests creates a woman who's feminine, cooperative, and pleasant to be around, because she's learned that bad behavior has consequences and good behavior gets rewarded. Every interaction in those first few weeks is like setting concrete. Once it hardens, the shape is fixed. You can try to chip away at it later, try to reshape it, try to change the dynamic, but it's exhausting and usually futile. The time to set the right shape is when the concrete is still wet, when the relationship is still forming, when she's still figuring out who you are and what you'll tolerate. This is why you can't afford to be lazy or complacent early on. You can't think that you'll just go along with her bad behavior now and establish boundaries later. You can't let things slide because you're afraid of losing her, or because you want to avoid conflict. Every test you fail early on makes the next test harder to pass. Every boundary you fail to enforce early on makes it harder to enforce boundaries later. Every time you demonstrate neediness or seek her validation early on, you dig yourself deeper into a hole that becomes increasingly difficult to climb out of. The man who understands this treats those early tests with the seriousness they deserve. He knows that being too accommodating, too available, too eager to please in the beginning doesn't make her like him more. It makes her respect him less. He knows that the temporary discomfort of enforcing boundaries and maintaining his standards early on saves him from months or years of being in a relationship where he's not respected. Let me walk you through the specific tests you're facing right now, the ones you're probably failing without even recognizing them as tests. Understanding what these tests look like in real life is the difference between being the man she respects and being the man she walks all over. These aren't abstract theories. These are the actual situations playing out in your interactions with women every single day. The drama test is probably the most common one you'll encounter, and it comes in countless variations. She'll create conflict out of nothing. You'll be having a perfectly normal conversation, and suddenly she's upset about something trivial. Maybe you didn't text her back fast enough. Maybe you said something she's choosing to interpret in the worst possible way. Maybe she's bringing up something from 3 weeks ago that seemed resolved. The content doesn't matter. What matters is that she's introducing chaos into your interaction to see how you handle it. Most men immediately go into crisis management mode. They start explaining themselves, justifying their actions, apologizing for things they didn't do, trying desperately to smooth things over and get back to that pleasant state they were in 5 minutes ago. They think the goal is to resolve the drama as quickly as possible by giving her whatever she seems to want, but that's exactly the wrong approach. What she's actually testing is whether drama works on you. Can she use emotional turbulence to control you? Can she make you uncomfortable enough that you'll do anything to make it stop? The man who passes this test stays calm, doesn't get pulled into the emotional whirlwind, and either addresses the issue with calm rationality or simply refuses to engage with manufactured drama. Then there's the withdrawal test, and this one destroys more men than almost any other. Things are going well, you're connecting, there's momentum, and then suddenly, she goes cold. She stops initiating contact. Her texts become short and infrequent. She's less enthusiastic, less engaged, less available. The plans you had get canceled or rescheduled. She creates distance where there was closeness. And every fiber of your being wants to close that gap, to reach out, to ask what's wrong, to do something, anything, to get back that warmth and connection you had before. This is the test. Will you chase? Will you panic? Will you flood her with messages asking if everything's okay? Will you try harder to win her attention? Will you lower your standards or compromise your boundaries to get her back? The withdrawal test reveals whether you're outcome dependent, whether your emotional state relies on her giving you attention and validation. When you chase after her withdrawal, you fail spectacularly. You prove that you need her more than she needs you. You demonstrate that her attention controls you. The correct response is to match her energy, or even reduce yours slightly, to continue living your life as if nothing has changed, to remain completely unaffected by her pulling away. Boundary pushing is another test that appears constantly, and it starts small before escalating. She'll be late to your date and offer no apology or a weak excuse. She'll cancel plans at the last minute. She'll be rude or disrespectful in subtle ways. She'll talk about other guys to gauge your reaction. She'll make demands on your time or resources. She'll say she'll do something and then not do it. Each instance is her pushing against your boundaries to see if you actually have any, to see if you'll enforce them, to see what you'll tolerate. The man who fails this test makes excuses for her behavior. He tells himself she's just stressed, she's having a bad day, she didn't mean it that way, it's not a big deal. He lets things slide because he doesn't want to seem controlling, or because he's afraid that enforcing boundaries will push her away. But every time you fail to address boundary violations, You're teaching her that your boundaries don't actually exist. You're showing her that she can treat you however she wants without consequences. And she'll keep pushing further and further until she either loses all respect for you or you finally snap in frustration. The flake test is a specific type of boundary pushing that deserves special attention. She agrees to plans, seems enthusiastic about them, and then backs out with minimal notice and a questionable excuse. Most guys respond with understanding and immediate alternatives. They say things like, "No worries, how about tomorrow instead?" Or, "That's okay, just let me know when you're free." They're so afraid of losing the opportunity that they communicate their time has no value, that flaking on them has no consequences, that they'll just sit around waiting for whenever she decides to grace them with her presence. The criticism test shows up when she makes negative comments about you, your choices, your interests, or your lifestyle. Maybe she mocks something you're passionate about. Maybe she questions your decisions. Maybe she compares you unfavorably to other men. The weak man either gets defensive and tries to justify himself, or he changes his behavior to avoid her criticism. Both responses fail the test. Getting defensive shows insecurity. Changing yourself shows you need her approval more than you need to be authentic. The jealousy test involves her mentioning other men, talking about guys who are interested in her, bringing up her ex, or otherwise introducing the specter of competition. She's watching your reaction carefully. Do you get jealous? Do you get possessive? Do you try to compete with these other men? Do you suddenly become more attentive and available? Or do you remain completely unfazed because you're so confident in your own value that the existence of other men doesn't threaten you? Now we get to the part that separates men who understand this game from men who think they understand it but actually don't. Because here's where most guys make a critical mistake. They learn about these tests, they recognize them when they're happening, and then they respond with the complete wrong energy. They think passing a test means being cold, being dismissive, being angry, or punishing her for testing them. They think strength means aggression. They couldn't be more wrong. The winning response to her tests isn't anger. It's not resentment. It's not passive-aggressive withdrawal. It's not coldness or cruelty. The winning response is what's called amused mastery. And it's a concept that most men struggle to grasp because it requires a level of emotional maturity and genuine confidence that they simply don't have yet. Amused mastery means you see the test for what it is. You recognize the game being played. And instead of getting upset about it, you're almost entertained by it. Think about how you'd react if a 5-year-old tried to manipulate you. Would you get angry? Would you get defensive? Would you feel threatened? Of course not. You'd probably smile, maybe even chuckle, because you see right through what they're doing and you're not affected by it. That's the energy of amused mastery. You're not taking her tests seriously because you're so secure in yourself that these little challenges can't shake you. You understand that testing is part of her nature, it's not personal, and it's actually a sign that she cares enough to test whether you're real. When she creates drama out of nothing, amused mastery means you might raise an eyebrow, give a slight smirk, and say something like, "You're really committed to this storyline, aren't you?" with a playful tone. You're acknowledging what she's doing without getting pulled into it. You're showing her that you see the test. You're not falling for it, but you're also not angry about it. You're above it in a way that's attractive rather than condescending. When she withdraws and goes cold, amused mastery means you don't chase and you don't punish. You simply continue living your amazing life. You don't flood her with messages, and you don't go completely silent out of spite. You just maintain your normal level of engagement or slightly reduce it, as if her withdrawal is so inconsequential to your life that you barely noticed. There's no butthurt energy. There's no "I'll show her" energy. There's just a man who's so abundant and outcome independent that one woman's behavior doesn't affect his emotional state. When she pushes your boundaries, amused mastery means you enforce them with a light touch. You don't explode in anger. You don't lecture her about respect. You don't make it a big, dramatic moment. You simply make it clear, calmly and confidently, that the behavior isn't acceptable. If she's consistently late, you might say, "I waited 15 minutes. I'm heading out now. Let me know when you can respect my time and we'll try again." No anger, no resentment. just a clear boundary enforced with confidence. The difference between amused mastery and anger is the difference between power and weakness disguised as power. When you respond to her tests with anger, you're revealing that she got to you. You're showing that her behavior affected your emotional state, which means she has power over you. Anger is just another form of being controlled by her actions. You're still reactive. You're still dancing to her tune. You've just changed the dance from supplication to aggression, but you're still letting her lead. Amused mastery comes from a place of genuine abundance. You can only maintain this energy when you truly believe you have options, when you truly believe you're high value, when you truly believe that if this particular woman doesn't work out, there are others who will. Men who get angry at tests are men who are terrified of losing this one woman because they don't believe they can get another one. They're operating from scarcity, and it shows in everything they do.
You have to actually develop the internal confidence and abundance that makes amused mastery your natural state. You have to genuinely reach a point where her tests don't bother you, where you see them as amusing rather than threatening, where you understand they're part of the dynamic rather than personal attacks. When you're truly confident, truly abundant, truly secure in your value, amused mastery isn't something you do, it's something you are.